Welcome back. Here's where you left off. Spoilers ahead for both the book Mickey7 by Edward Ashton and the movie Mickey 17.
Mickey7 versus Mickey 17. The good, the bad, the ugly. We are here to talk about the book Mickey7, and after that we'll be talking about the movie Mickey7 just got released last week as of today's recording. And we're going to be talking about the difference between the book versus the movie. Derek has been trying to convince me to read this book for the past year. Yes, for the past year. And when he told me that the movie is coming out, I had to speed up the process of reading this book so I can actually watch the movie when it came out. So this is my review, not Derek's review. This is my review now. So I have a very, very strong feeling, very strong opinions about the book and the movie itself. Before I continue talking about my opinions about this book, let's ask Derek regarding the plot line of this book first. Not the movie, just the book.
So the plot line basically has a guy, Mickey, who is essentially somebody who is a copy, a clone of clone of clone of clone. And anytime anything dangerous happens on this colony, he's used. Basically, he's valued less than a robot. And so during the course, if there's like a virus, if there's like a breach in the hull, if there's some other issue that's going on with the colony, an alien life form you have to walk up and say hi to, and then they're going to eat you. This is the guy they send out to do it because all they do is literally grow a new one and they insert his memories back into it. And so the plot line goes along about Mickey from his journey from the planet they started on to the new colony and his adventures during the colony. And of course, as the book says, Mickey7, we're on the 7th iteration of Mickey and how he died. We learn how he died the further 6 times, and also how the book is about duplicates and how a new duplicate comes along for him. So there's a lot of really interesting stuff in this, but when I had Leonard read this, I really wanted to hear his thoughts because I love the themes in this book. And I wanted to hear, there's a lot of philosophy in here. There's a lot of interesting questions, but also the premise of the book was really interesting to me. What did you think, Leonard? I want to hear this.
Okay, let's start with, the book itself. The theme of the book is actually very good. I totally enjoy the aspect and the thought of having a clone, or they call it expendables, regarding the main character's name is Mickey Barnes. So when Mickey, as you said, if Mickey gets deployed or gets put in a mission, it has to be a mission that it's considered unknown. For example, if there's a reactor leak or something, Mickey goes in there and fixes the issue. Then he dies from radiation, and they just literally print that guy out and reinsert his brains, his thoughts, and his personality after his last upload, right? So, it's the whole premises of the book itself. It touches a very very good theme about cloning. Remember back in the early 90s when they cloned a sheep? It's something similar to that one. The ethical question came out when that sheep was born after being cloned, and the book itself actually touched that as well too. That you get the natalists, the people who thinks that cloning is an abomination, for example, didn't like Mickey at all. They totally like hands away from him. But there's some aspect of the natalist is like very curious about Mickey. I'm like, well, this is the untouched person that we're not supposed to touch. So the curiosity kicks in, and people are like very attracted to him as well, right? And the same time too, that
was a fun part.
Yeah, and in the same time too, the dilemma of having duplicates, because the storyline is Mickey went on a mission, and he got in an accident, and his buddy think that he's gonna die anyway, so he flew back and left him there.
Yeah.
But next thing you know, Mickey
Berto leaves him.
Yeah,
What a jerk.
I know, right? So he ending up walking back to the station and discovered that they ended up printing Mickey 8, and that's when the chaos and the adventure begins, right? But the problem I have with this book is very simple and it's very straightforward. It bores the crap out of me. It really bored the crap out of me. The whole book has 27 chapters. I got interested after chapter 20. I literally said, "Oh, this is getting interesting." Then I checked. I was only in chapter 21. And that's when I realized that it took me a year to read this book, and there's a reason why. I got bored. I physically got bored. I got sick of boredom.
Yeah.
Okay.
My question to you is this. Did you get interested when the creepers became involved, or like at what point during the writing really started to engage you? Like where did that drop off, right?
When it got more interesting is when he started hearing communication as an implant. That's when I realized that it's like something.
So the
up.
creepers. So when the creepers are coming in, you're kind of wondering a little bit of mystery there.
More the creepers talking to him, trying to communicate with him. That's the time that I was like, oh, there's something that's up with this. Because remember, if you read the book, there was a lot of like, okay, he thought Mickey 8 was talking to him in his sleep through their cochlear implant, right? So that's when I was like, they're side by side. There's times that he shut it off because it's just getting annoying, and definitely understand that. But yeah, it's come to the point that I got excited or started piquing my interest when that started coming in.
Well,
don't get me wrong. The origin or the history of Mickey Barnes was pretty interesting. It was very good, like regarding his buddy, what's his name again? Berto back in Highgard.
And his girlfriend Nasha.
Yeah. So when
although
Mickey,
I like Marshall. Marshall was the head guy. I kind of find him pretty interesting too.
Yeah. But when Berto and Mickey was back in Highgard, and not Earth, Highgard's in our colony, they got in trouble there, and they ending up joining this expedition to go to Niflheim, and because Mickey is not he's not a very well skilled person, right? He's not considered the most intellectual person, but that's fine.
Well, this is the thing.
Right?
It's like, I mean, here's the thing. Like in the beginning of the book, what I enjoyed was the interesting aspects of why people don't want to be him, why they didn't want the job. They make a big hafoo about how, there's 200 people on this ship and there's hundreds of applicants, thousands of applicants, and nobody applied for his job, right? And the real question here, the philosophical side is he really Mickey anymore after several iterations, right? It's a clone of clone of clone of clone. Is it still him? It's a philosophical question. Does he still have a soul? Is he still the same person? All these philosophical questions are very interesting to relate, and he struggles with these questions, wondering about it, and also the hardship of being who he is. We go over, and what I found interesting was there was that initial conversation with Greta. Was it Greta, the woman who interviewed him? I think it was that.
Yeah, I think it's Greta.
And she goes down this long list, and she finally leans over and she goes, "Are you dumb, basically? Are you after I read all those things out, you're still okay with this?" And it was a really interesting point where she was honestly trying to talk him out of it. Because
in the book itself, because typically who becomes an Expendables are usually gets voluntold through the criminal side of the like whoever got in jail already or whoever's in jail, if they want to get out, they have to sign up as an expendable, right? This is the first time she saw someone, as you said, volunteered to be part of this mission and to be an expendable. Remember, he didn't have any proper skill set going to this. So remember, Berto is a very physical, very smart, very risk taking, and he signed up as a pilot, right? So look at the contrast between Mickey and Berto, right? And if you compare both of them, Mickey literally does not have any skill set, and he needs to get out of the plan because he's being hunted by literally the mob. Because Berto and him, well, he made a bet that Berto's going to lose the game, and he didn't tell Berto, and Berto won. Now he owes a lot of money, so he's trying to get out, right? So
it's an interesting thing. It's like that's the rationale to have him get off the planet, which is fine. I actually don't object to that. I think it was kind of ironic that his best friend is the one that forced him into this life, and eventually his best friend is on the ship with him. I found that very interesting.
Well, he was trying to help Mickey. He was trying to help Mickey to solve this issue, right? Because deep down inside, Berto was, I don't want to say he was responsible of the downfall of Mickey and being indebted to the mob. He just bet against his best friend that he thought he's gonna lose because the guy that I can't remember what they were playing, and that it's a lot stronger than Berto, but he didn't realize Berto was actually a lot better than he thinks Mickey thought he was, right? So remember there was part of the book that he's like, why you didn't tell me that you're betting on this? I can literally tell you don't bet against me. It was literally said out loud. And in this case, Mickey bet against him, and he lost a lot of money that he does not have. Because the point was for him betting is to make money and to survive. But he bet the wrong way.
Let's talk about the loyalty test. I did like that too. The loyalty test or the graduation ceremony. That was kind of fun.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that makes a lot. What do you think about the loyalty test? Because it makes sense to me.
It did, yeah. But what I liked when I think if I'm remembering correctly, they were out for like a year or something out. So it takes them several years to get to the other planet. They're out for a year. He's just having fun, kicking around, and then there's like a hull breach, and he has to go fix it at like 0.1 C light speed. So basically, he's going to get fried. So that's how Mickey 1 finds his end. And then 5 minutes later, Mickey 2 finds his end because he has to go outside and repair the other thing. So basically, in a day, he loses both of those things. Oh, and by the way, in between those two things, the way that the crew treats him while he's dying is awful. They're like, so how do you feel? As you like his skin is melting off and so forth. Like it's interesting. It shows that, again, going back to the philosophy of how he's viewed by other people as less of a person. And that really is a sad state of affairs. But how would we, if somebody cloned themselves in this day and age, treat that person if they were like, hey, I'm a clone of so-and-so, you know? How would that work? But then also when they get to the planet, like Mickey 3, Mickey 4, he dies of these viruses that they willingly expose him to so they can learn how to create vaccines for them and so forth. And they're horrible, horrible deaths. But he remembers all of these deaths. And by that point, Nash is starting to feel for him because he's had all these iterations of himself. Heck, Mickey 5 dies of a brain-eating bug. I mean, these are horrible ways to go to. Don't you think so?
Yes, it does. Actually, you touched a very good subject here because Nasha is Mickey's girlfriend, and she knew going into the relationship that Mickey is expendable. There's going to be a new version of him every time he dies. But the one that you're saying, the one you're mentioning, that there was a great part of the book that, in my opinion, is one of the best part of the book. That it shows the complexity of the relationship between Nasha, Mickey, and the rest of the crew. That when they were injecting Mickey in this room with all these viruses, and they literally ask him, "Hey, put the helmet on. I want you to upload in real time so we know exactly how you feel, so you can describe it to us." And while that was going on, Nasha was outside, like comforting him, making sure he's okay. And this is when it got very emotional. That she said, "You know what? Screw this. I'm going inside. Give me your give me a suit. I'm going inside and be with him." That was in that part, in that moment, you saw the division between Mickey's relationship with Nasha and Mickey's relationship with the rest of the crew. This is when you see that Nasha sees Mickey as a person, but while the crew seeing Mickey as a tool. So it was a very nice contrast in this whole book. In that scene alone, in that portion of that chapter, was, in my opinion, is like the best part of the whole book.
Yeah,
Right.
the contrast between Nasha and Marshall was amazing in the book, because and Berto was kind of neutral in a lot of ways, in a sense, but Marshall is the extreme other side, where he just looks at him and spits in disgust and is like, "God, I have to even talk to you," kind of thing, right? And I really enjoyed how Nasha, no matter what iteration he was, still valued him. But when we get to the part of the book, which is early on in the book, where there's Mickey 7 and Mickey 8 there, the interesting part that I found was the question of Mickey himself. Like, if you're standing there in front of yourself, Leonard, and you got two of you, all your tricks. They do rock, paper, scissors to go into the recycler, and well, you're gonna do rock. It would be hard to get one over on yourself. And there's that interesting contrast of, in the book, Mickey 8 is sort of written a little bit more like a jerk, like more like a more negative version of Mickey 7. I understand why the writer did that, but really, would you as a person be like that to yourself, is another philosophical question. What did you think about that?
If I clone myself and I saw my cloned version, like, remember, theoretically Mickey 7 is the oldest one compared to Mickey 8. So it shows the maturity of Mickey 7. Remember, Mickey 7 went through the ordeal of dying on that cave. Mickey 8 didn't. Mickey 8 showed up.
Wait a sec. No. That doesn't work at all, buddy. No. I'm going to correct you there. Mickey 7 didn't die. Mickey 7 didn't upload for a month before. So Mickey 8 has the memory of dying for Mickey 6.
Yes,
but he has a month less than Mickey 7. So,
let me finish this off. Theoretically, Mickey 7 is still the oldest compared to Mickey 8. And you see this maturity level. Remember, in that 1 month span, you see the maturity level of Mickey 7 compared to Mickey 8. Because Mickey 8 is like, "Oh, well, you owe me food. I don't want to go out. I still need food. I just got out of the printer here. I just need to rest first." And Mickey 7 understands that. Definitely understand why he's doing. Mickey 8's doing this. That's why Mickey 7 is like, "Okay, fine, I'll do this, right?" And while he's doing all this work, all this stuff that he has to do, and by the way, they are in food ration as well, so there's calorie rations as well too. So he has to split his rations. That's why there's one point that they were fighting about calories. But anywho, they Mickey 7 didn't want to do some work because he's tired. And if he does the work, I need the calories to survive. And Mickey 8 doesn't have as much, right? And I think there was a conversation as well too that okay, fine, you'll do the next one. And when Mickey 7 tells Mickey 8, "Hey, I need you to do this one because I'm tired," well, he keeps saying, "I don't have the calories to do this." Fine, do the easy ones, right? Do the easy ones. Do the next one because I'm too tired. So that was the conversation they had. So you could actually, if I see myself cloned in the memories of a month ago, of course I'm going to have more, quote unquote, seniority or more maturity or more knowledge
I think you're missing the philosophical point here, Leonard. I mean, your life experiences, like basically for the lack of a month, these two men are exactly the same for the lack of a month. However, in that month, your life experience can can change you as a person. Anything can happen. Family could die. You could have a kid. Your life experience could change dramatically during that time and change your perspective on life. And I think the philosophy here is that Mickey 8 is a month or so behind Mickey 7, and his experience that Mickey 7 has gone through over the last month has really changed his perspective on a number of things, where Mickey 8 doesn't have that perspective. So you're right when you say immaturity there. I just think it's an interesting contrast to say that if there's two of you and you go down one path and the other one goes down the other, are you really the same person anymore? Right. Okay. And I think I'm wondering if that's the point the writer was going after here,
No, okay. If you put it that way, if the question, because you posed a question earlier, if you keep copying yourself, is the essence of that person goes away? Essentially, that's what you ask. And in this case, if you look at between 7 and 8. They theoretically go through different path there. You got Mickey 7. Doesn't matter if it's only a day or 2 days. There's a lot of things can happen in those times. We're talking about a month now. Mickey 7 went through a different path. It's like a fork in the road. Mickey 7 went to the left or to the left, and Mickey 8 essentially has that. Mickey 7 made a decision to turn left instead of turn right. But at that moment when Mickey 8 came in, he has that decision he has to make. Does he go left or does he go right? Right. In this case, because Mickey 7 is doing all the work, Mickey 8 can divert his path to a different way, that he doesn't have to do what Mickey 7 is doing. So the question that you ask is, are they the same person? No, they're not. They're completely different person. But if Mickey 7 died on that tunnel, essentially, and uploaded in the same time before he passed away, has the same knowledge before he went to that the cave, essentially they are the same person, because there's no variable of decision, because right now, in my opinion, Mickey 8 is actually literally second guessing himself. Okay, Mickey 7 did this, I'll do the opposite. Because he sees something that potentially he may see something that he doesn't like.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
So yeah, I do, and I like the contrast between those two characters. But really, where I think you and I agree things kind of shift in the book is exactly where you say you got interested, where the creepers, and we start to understand that they're intelligent, but in a way, it changed the feeling of the entire book. Because up to that point, it's the dynamic between Mickey 7 and Mickey 8. Then we bring the creepers into it, and we get into sort of a whole new plot of exploring the creepers. And I like the way that they ended the book in this way, with the antimatter and all that sort of stuff, as sort of fooling over Marshall, to ensure that the creepers are left alone and so forth. I tend to think it was interesting that Mickey 8 ended the way he did so suddenly, because I think the one thing that wasn't really answered by the creepers is because they ask him, "Are you Prime?" Well, okay, you're Prime, but how do you know Mickey 8 wasn't Prime? Like, they just killed him outright, I just wonder about that. What do you think?
Well, the question I have to pose is, did Mickey 8 really got killed, or he killed himself?
Yeah, in the book,
right?
It specifically says he was killed off, yeah.
There was for me, I asked a question because when they entered the tunnel, 7 and 8 walked in with a bomb, essentially a nuclear bomb in their backpack, and the marshal sent them there and say, "Hey, I need you to kill the creepers." Right, and literally that's what it is. That's their path was going into those tunnels to kill them, and they split, right? And in the book itself, we were in the perspective of Mickey 7, not Mickey 8 in this case, and they stopped talking. I'm sorry, they stopped talking because I think 8 or 7 got annoyed. I can't remember which one, but at the end of the day, Mickey 8 died. We don't know how he died. They never actually explained it. In my opinion, they never explained it. But Mickey 7 had a conversation with the queen or the head honcho of the creepers.
Prime, I don't
Prime,
know.
yeah.
Whatever you want
He's
to call
Prime,
it.
yeah, you're right. He's Prime. And he asked a simple question. He just said, "Are you Prime?" Through his optical implant. Remember, I said earlier that where I got interested when I started hearing things through his optical implant, and he's actually talking to the Prime of the creeper Prime, right? And that conversation is like, "Hey, are you Prime? I do this. We just want to be left alone." That's when they start having a conversation, and when he asked about when I think I think I remember if he asked the Creeper Prime if Mickey 8 is dead or he just
Yeah,
established
he
he's
asked.
dead.
He asked.
He did ask, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like, well, so I think logically, 6 they killed and took out his implant and were using that to try to communicate, and then 7 and 8 go in the caves. They kill 8, and I think what happens is, and I thought about this after I read the book, is that because they killed 6 and they rescued 7 thinking that he's Prime, that's why they killed 8, because they think, oh, maybe they could tell the difference between 7 and 8, maybe. And so it's like, oh, you're Prime, so I let you go back, and oh, you made a new copy. Well, I don't want him. It's okay for me to destroy your copies. And that's how they sort of think, right? The creepers are like, copies don't matter. It's okay as long as you don't kill the Prime, right?
Yeah.
But the creepers, sorry, go on.
No, I'm gonna say, yeah, I agree. Go ahead.
So after we come through all of that, there's this really great tension between Marshall and Mickey 7. And Marshall has this absolute disdain for basically everything. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's a great character, even though he's a complete asshole. He's a great character that really is dedicated to the survival of the colony and so forth. He's kind of somebody who is really engaged in us winning over anything. And he really has the most disdain of anyone in the colony for Mickey. So when he sends him out with the bombs, Mickey comes back and he hides 8's bomb and says, hey, the creepers have it. And so this is sort of the ending of the book where he leaves it as a secret to keep stability between the creepers and the colony so that Marshall doesn't go kill the creepers because he's totally into doing it. I liked that ending. What did you think about the ending of the book? I'm curious about it.
The ending of the book was anticlimactical. Yeah. But at the same time,
I completely agree with you. It was anticlimactic. I completely agree with you. But what did you think about the sort of when you think about the ending, how you felt about it?
Yeah, I was going there, but it was, in my opinion, the way the book was written and the way I felt about the book, the way the book ended is exactly what I expected. Very blah about it. After they made truth, spring came in, right? And everyone can go outside. It's still with their rebreeder. Not rebreeder because they can finally breed again because there's trees growing. And Nasha and 7 walked to this bunch of rocks, and that's when Mickey showed Nasha that the bomb's still there, and Nasha literally asked a simple question: did you get this bomb from them? Did they give this to you? And literally Mickey said that hey, I lied. I literally lied to protect humanity, to keep the peace, as you said. And he used the bomb that 8 has to tell Marshall that the Creeper has a nuclear bomb with them and they know how to use it. And when Marshall asked 7, said, how did they know that? I told them. Right? And during the conversation with Mickey and Nasha asked him, so you lied? So of course I lied. I'm not going to tell him what it is. Are you crazy? Right? So so he believed that Nasha's not going to say a single thing about this because she knows that they have to keep this peace, or else it's going to be a chaos. It's going to be them versus us moment, right? And the way the book and how it was ended, I expected the way it ended. I expected, based on the book since the beginning, in my opinion about the book, how it ended is how it ended. It was not a big grandiose like martyr thing. That's fine, because the biggest thing is like Mickey7 wants to be Mickey7, and that's it. No more 9, no more 8, no more 10, 12, 13, 14. He wants just to be Mickey Barnes.
Wants to be himself.
Yeah, not Mickey7, Mickey Barnes, and it's sort of kind of poetic justice how the book ended that way. But at the same time, there's a lot of questions. I had questions when the book ended. It's like, okay, so you have this piece, now it's thawing out, but you guys know there's a good chance this thawing out thing could be a short-lived thing, right? Could be a hiccup in the orbit of the sun or whatever. So there's a lot of questions.
It wasn't a perfect ending. It wasn't a perfect ending. I did like the ending, but I agree. There are many questions. It wasn't something that wasn't like a climatic battle or whatever. I don't need it to be a climatic battle or whatever. I don't need it to be that. But there are questions that I have. Let me ask you, we're going to talk about the movie here in a second, but let's just focus on the book here for a moment. What would you rate the book? Just out of curiosity here. What would you rate it?
Okay, I'm going to rate this to a... This is kind of hard. This is very, very hard because there's only one scene that I really like. And there's one part of the book that I really like I mentioned before, when Nasha went inside the room itself and held Mickey, right? And when he goes through all this test. That's the only thing I like about the book. That's the only thing. So I'm literally giving this book 5 out of 10. Because the reason why is it took me a year to read this. Because I got bored the crap out of me. I got bored. Like, I think I told you I stopped reading the book because I was bored. Like, and the only saving grace is that scene. The concept of the book is good, but it was executed wrong. It was executed so bad that the meaning of the ethics, if you're looking at the ethical side of the book itself, it sort of went away. Right. And
you know what?
I was disappointed. I was disappointed.
It's interesting because my critique of it isn't so much about being boring. I loved sometimes you and me, I like books that make me think a little bit more than yourself in the way of the philosophy and so forth. And I tend to find that between the two of us, and that's fine. But my criticisms of the book is actually the plot change with the creepers. That's where I was like, well, we were on this track and I was staying with you, then you moved. So for that, I'm actually going to give it a 7 out of 10 because it's going to drop down at least 3 points for switching gears on me. The reason I'm giving it a higher score is because of the interesting concept that it gave, and that the writer, for whatever his reason is, did try to go through and give us that contrast between 7 and 8, which is what really engaged me and the history of it in regards to doing it. And there were strong characters in the book, so I'm not going to be quite as harsh about it. But having said that, let's move on to the movie, my friend.
Okay. So, Mickey7 is the book. Guess the name of the movie. Mickey17. When you told me the movie's coming out and they're renaming it to Mickey17, the first thing out of my mind is WTF. Why? Are you one of those studios that because 7 does not give you the number of proper likes or whatever, and you really have to rename it to 17? The first thing in my mind is like, why? Why do you want to rename a book to something to make it sound better because it comes out of your mouth better? That's the biggest issue. One of the biggest issues I have with the movie is the title. You have a perfectly well thought out title by the writer. And the most pissed off thing about it is the whole thing. The writer, Edward Ashton, was part of the writing team of Mickey17. He was credited for it. So I don't know if they decided to take him out of the equation while writing this or while doing the screenplay. Let's start the the critiquing of this movie. I want you to go first and tell me, because I literally just finished watching this last night. So please
Okay,
tell
right.
me what you think.
So I really want to get this right. Let me get this right. I want to honor you here, but this is like, I was so bored. Oh my god. Did I do okay? Did I get it right?
Yes.
I tried. Okay. No, honestly, I was viciously bored in this movie, and I felt it was, and I summed it up with this: it's a cartoon movie. And there's a couple critiques I want to get out of the way first. Firstly, there was so much changing to both the plot, the concept, and the execution of this that it really is just extremely loosely related to the book. It's sort of like, if you take, what they did with Star Trek and rebrand it and say it's Star Trek, but it really isn't. You can name
Thank
it
you,
whatever
J.J.
you
Abrams,
want.
for screwing Star Trek. That's all I have to
Yeah,
say. Thank
you can name it whatever you want, but it's not really the original thing. The funny thing is, the things that they destroyed and redoing it, I mean, if you redo something for a movie, I can understand if you change something because you're modifying it from a book to a movie. However, they added things, they subtracted things, they did, and I want to know why they did that. I want to be like, okay, I see your point. The perfect example is Marshall in the book was a great contrast to Mickey. They were great opposites on the end. In the movie, Marshall was some cartoon, evil, incompetent, person with his wife, and he was never ever interested in the colony. He was just interested in his own gratification, and really weird stuff going on with those two. And I didn't like him. And I mean, the actor that played him, I'm a great fan of him, but when maybe he didn't read the book or they didn't really care in regards to this, but even Mickey, they sort of fluffed over what made the book strong to me, which was the philosophical questions and the question around whereas we get 7 and 8 in the movie, they're not really against each other in the sense of fighting with each other. They try to want to kind of team them up, and there's this sort of overarching comic relief to the whole movie, which I found very boring. I don't know, maybe they had a concept. What did you think?
Okay, so I won't be harsh on this one. It's like they read the book. In my opinion, I'm just presuming they read the book and they say, "Oh my God, this is an amazing book."
Well, you're presuming they read the book based on the movie. You presume
nice.
it.
Hold on. Let me finish my story here. I'm presuming them when the screenwriter said, "Oh my God, this is an amazing movie," so I'm gonna contact Edward Ashton. Hey, can I get the rights to write your screenplay? And he's like, "Sure, just don't F it up." And next thing you know, they read the book. I'm like, okay, where can I start? How am I going to start this? Oh, you know what? Oh, I can make this better. So they literally took the book and tossed it on the trash and just kept the name of the characters. It literally took the book and ripped the name, kept the name, get rid of the rest. And let's talk about Mark Ruffalo's character Marshall here. Let's talk about that. Okay. Mark Ruffalo, great actor. Great actor. But I'm not sure if you noticed that he was using a false teeth and he looks like John Travolta in some of his movies.
I didn't notice that. No,
Yes,
I
you
didn't.
saw that?
Wow,
Right?
that's
Okay,
interesting.
good. Yeah, because first time I saw him talking, I'm like, oh, John Travolta. He's taking his inner John Travolta out in this one. That's awesome. And the movie was almost 2 hours long.
It was almost 2 hours and 20 minutes long.
Okay.
Dude.
Oh, okay. 2
It's
hours
like,
and 20
what
minutes
is this,
long.
Avatar? Like,
I know. I almost fell asleep. I
almost walked out. The only reason I stayed was because I was looking at my watch going, oh my God, it's only half over.
It's kind of funny though, because it was like when the movie started, I was like, okay, because I knew going into it, they're not gonna like they're going to change some stuff. I knew going into it. That's fine. I expected that. They can't take a whole book and convert it to a movie because this movie is going to be freaking 3-parter, right? So I have no problem. Again, I mentioned this several times as well, too, in previous episode, that if you're going to do a book and transport it into a movie, we know that the screenwriters, the writers, the director, the studio will take stuff out, modify it a bit to fit the medium that they're using to present the story. In this case,
neither of us have a problem with that. Neither of us have a problem with that.
But the issue I have is the first hour and a half, I was falling asleep, and I watched this on Cineplex VIP with a very comfortable reclining couch. I took off my shoes. Already. 20 minutes into the movie and say, I think I'm going to fall asleep. The only saving grace I have is my wife was beside me. Okay? And
wait, did she poking you? Be like, if I have to go through this, you have to too?
No, not like that. Not like that. I did talk to her after the movie though. And the whole movie itself was so outside the book. I felt so bad that they ruined a book adaptation and has a potential to make it good, right? I don't care if the book is bad or not. If the source content, like in this case, the source content is good enough, right? They have a chance to make it better, or at least modify in a way that it will make it, great to watch. If you don't give me 22 hours and 20 minutes of my life for this one, I better be excited.
Well, here's the thing. The weird thing is, I feel like the stupid screenwriter guy went on an Audible or like Goodreads or whatever and looked at the description of this book, just the description, and wrote his whole screenplay based on that. Because the character of Marshall doesn't make any sense. And the other weird thing, like the weird slapstick underwriting comedic thing of the whole movie felt very off. Like, what were they going for? A comedic sci-fi movie? Were they going for something serious? It felt like they didn't know what they wanted the movie to be. It wasn't supposed to be. Well, firstly, it was never a serious question of philosophy or whether Mickey is a person or not or whatever. They mention those concepts in the movie for like 1 second, but they don't explore it at all. If you're going to give a movie based on this book, which has a great concept to it, explore the concept. It's funny because I remember watching the movie and watched the very first scene where he's in the crevice and we're like, yeah, okay, they're starting off right. And then after that scene, the entire movie falls apart for me. I mean, only the first scene in the whole movie was good for me. That is a bad start.
See, okay.
It's like
here's my thing. Remember, I told you in the book that one of my favorite scenes when Asha.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah.
When
you got really mad
they
about
had
that
it
one,
the same. They had it on the movie. They literally had the same scene in the movie, and when I saw that, that scene came in like later on in the movie, but they did show him on instead of a room, it's in this tube thing, right? And him going through all the viruses and trying to find out the vaccination, all that stuff. She ended up going inside the cylinder thing to be with him, and when I saw that, I was so happy that they actually put that in. I literally told my wife, "Is like, this was in my book. This is in the book." I was so happy when I saw that. I was like excited. After that scene, my excitement went back down to like, oh, I'm still here. So it's and I'm just reading through some of the critic response on this movie. And the best one is from the AV Club. The film is unwindingly long-winded, widely entertaining sci-fi. I agree in the long-winded part of it. Widely entertaining, I just call it, I can watch it. It's literally a Netflix thing for me now. And 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 the best thing about this, and part of this, their comment is critiquing to our dehumanizing present, and it did show not as severe as the book itself. It shows the disparity between how Nasha feel about, like I mentioned before, how Mickey's relationship with Nasha and how Mickey's relationship with the rest of the crew. You can actually see that in this book. Yeah. You can see it here as well, right?
But I think that was the heart of the book, and they sort of mentioned it and jumped over it, and then did all this crappy comedic BS. I mean, why did Marshall need a wife? Why do we need to have
I was gonna go
the
to that
creepers
one too.
encircle it? Why do we? I mean, this was all stuff that didn't need to happen. At all.
like you said, Marshall's character in the book itself was very, very good. He can stand alone by itself, but they introduced a wife on the movie itself, and it's sort of. I think the reason why they put the wife there and the assistant there, because instead of tackling the philosophical question regarding cloning, they just made it to. We'll just make it as a religious cult instead. You know.
So let me ask.
It sort of bypasses the question that you asked. The question that you asked me earlier. What do you think about the about the cloning aspect of this whole thing? And the movie itself did not like to talk about it, so they just made it as a religious thing, as a cult thing, and that sort of gave them a pass of not talking about cloning. Right. And
I wonder if, it's weird because I came out of the movie. I was trying to really be fair about it. Right. I was trying to be like, okay, maybe they were going for a different statement than the movie or whatever. And then when I nailed down to it, I thought what they were trying to do was to avoid any serious conversation about anything. And they wanted to make it very generic. And that just ripped out the heart of the book. And they used the name, as you said, the names from the book, and that's all they really used. Everything else was just weird window dressing. I mean, when you make a movie, the people that made this movie, I would ask them, like, what was your point of making it? I mean, I don't think that this is a blockbuster movie. I don't think it's a whatever. And so it's like, what audience are you looking to engage with this comedic? And I go back to the comedic thing because I thought it was so poorly placed. I thought the choice of that was so poor that's really why I mean, if they'd gone for a slightly more serious tone, I would have probably been a lot more forgiving.
Well, let's talk about the comedic tone here. Some of the comedic tone is definitely okay. I'm not sure if you saw it or felt the same way, but I'm gonna tell you exactly. So I'll let you know when I'm done. The comedic part of this thing, there's a couple of things that in my opinion was funny, and some of them are like, oh, I think I know what they're trying to do here. The funny thing about it, when Mickey was coming out of the printer, you remember the old the old colored printers, the ink colored printers that they print out and the paper goes back in and out. Remember that? That's how it felt like. That felt like Mickey was trying to bring print out that same way, the old fashioned inkjet printers. Right, with the paper going in and out. That's funny.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
Like, in my opinion, that's one of the funniest thing I've ever seen.
You make a great point there, though. You make a wonderful point. That scene could have been funny. I didn't find it funny.
I got the point of it.
I got the point of it. I got the point of it, and I got where they were going with it. But because the tone of the rest of the movie was so over the top, it landed so poorly with me. But I completely get your point on that. Yeah, it was a nice throwback. But oddly enough, like, how many people in that theater would have gotten that context?
No, just us. So that, in my opinion, that was funny. That was hilarious. Right? Because I started giggling, my wife started giggling because it's just a funny thing to see, right? But the problem I had is like every time they print Mickey out, they have the same jitter, and I was like, okay, cool. But to make it even more funny, in my opinion, is when they I think they were printing out like several times now, and they totally forgot about it. It's like when you're printing something out, you forgot to take out the little piece of plastic so the paper will not fall down in the ground. That's what it is. That's literally the concept of old school printing showed up here, and that's, in my opinion, that's the most funniest thing I've ever seen. One of the funniest things, not funniest thing I've ever seen, but the funniest thing in this movie, right? And the other one as well too is how Robert Pattinson actually played Mickey. How he played Mickey and especially Mickey, say it's Mickey-17, it shows his demeanor, his face, his how he plays it is very good. Like he portrayed Mickey very well. In my opinion, like I don't have a list right now can actually play Mickey the way he played it, right? So his comedic timing, or the way how not timing, but how his expression was good, was funny, was not like haha, but funny that portrays some type of like WTF
I think
moments and
he tried.
all that stuff is nice.
He tried for what he could have with the script that he had, and he tried very hard. Yeah, exactly. And so, what would you rate the movie then? What
no, I'm not done yet, man. Slow down here. Slow down.
Oh, okay.
So the other one as well too, that I'm not. The tone of the movie itself is very unique, right? This movie was, I can't remember when it's slated when the screenwriting is 2021. Yeah. So the tonality of how Kenneth Marshall is. Yeah, we'll just talk about Kenneth Marshall and not Mark Ruffalo who played him, but the tone, how it was played, was very, very Trump-like. You know what I mean? Do you notice that there's a scene that how he talks and how even the late night show that they have, right, is very cult-like, and when he talks is very embellished, right? That's why I noticed the first time Marshall came out and has that conversation on Earth, on the recruiting side. Or even going into the cafeteria after they took off, you have that feel of it, very cult-like feel to it, right? And that is sort of like, oh, okay. I thought it was just me, and actually, I was just reading some critics' response there, and they literally said that, right? And that's why I'm kind of like, oh, so there's, when you actually ask, is like, what the initial intent of this movie? Do they want to have a movie for the sake of movie,
or Trump? This is a scathing review of Trump. This is what you're saying.
It is. It felt like in the same time too. Like you said several times as well too. It's like, what do you think about the tonality of the movie itself? Does it follow through? What's the question? Why did they do it this way? There's a good chance it'll be scathing narrative of at that period when what's his name was writing, the screenwriter writing it. What's his name? I have here Bong Joon-ho. When he was writing it, was it a scathing remark of that time, right? Because that's what it felt like. It was a conversation. I think the purpose of this was to have a conversation, right? But unfortunately, it failed. In my opinion, it failed that conversation because it felt like that the tone of the initial tone of the book was gone. Like you said several times already, is like is the book itself is asking a question. What do you think about cloning? What do you think about the a person being cloned? Is that person still the same person, right? And the movie itself, it went away and addressed it as a cult, right? And now, and how some of the Marshall was played, it's sort of an op-ed. Or I think they're trying to make a discussion piece out of it, like a very a backslap conversation. Hey, let's have this conversation, right? And it's sort of like, that's why I'm kind of like annoyed with all this, because there's a great opportunity to actually have a perfect dialogue in there. Just ask a simple question, but it ran away. Right, and I was very disappointed.
I was very
So,
disappointed too, my
yeah.
friend. So how would you rate it, my friend? What are we looking at here?
I'm gonna rate this movie, unfortunately, a 5 out of 10. And the reason why I mentioned earlier, there's so much potential. This movie can be so good. There's a lot of missed dialogues that you can actually have with this movie, and I was disappointed. How about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna rate it a 3 out of 10. I think the only redeeming value I think was the actor playing Mickey. I think he made a good attempt. I think it was well done that way. But really, that was the only redeeming value I could find in the entirety of this mess of a movie. So,
See, for me, Robert Pattinson and Naomi Aki did a great job. They played Mickey and Nasha, and they were great. I was very, very happy with the way they portrayed the characters, and that's why
you and I do this all the time here. We never ever hit on actors. We never criticize the actors for the crap they have to play sometimes. So this is not, I mean, when I give a good, when I'm scoring it at 3 out of 10, it's like, okay, I'm not criticizing the acting as much as just the bad plot and choices that the director and the writers made. And that's not a fault of an actor. It really isn't. It's like,
here's actually a good question to ask you. Because we've done movie reviews in this podcast several times already, especially if the source material came from a book, right? Doesn't matter how good or bad the movie is, and the question that always comes up after recording actually is: do you blame the actors or do you blame? Sorry, do you put the actors in the same level as the writers and the directors and the producers if the movie
it
bombs?
depends, because let's just say you have great writing, like the writing is superb, but the actor delivers it in a very general or negative way. Then we could start talking about the actors, but the writing in this movie was nothing. I mean, it was less than subpar, right? It really was, to my opinion, and that's not a fault of the actors. I think if you had better like, for example, Marshall's character, I mean, he's a great actor. He played that role based the way he was directed to play the role. It's not that he could have done something more stern. It's not something they couldn't. So he played that based on the way he was directed to play the character. That is not on him at all. Played a comedic, culty, as you said, Trump-like character. That's great. That's not his fault. I mean, he's a great actor. We love it. So when we have that conversation, I'm always leaning towards favoring the actors and saying it's not their fault. I always lean in that direction, like 90% of the time. It really is that critiqued.
Okay, so we have the movie. We talked about the movie. We talked about the book. We talk about some aspect of what's wrong with it. Okay. Do you think this is a good adaptation based on the book?
No, not even close. Not even on the same planet. All they did was take names and change it over. I mean, I think the writer's vision of what it was really disrespected in the movie, and that's a shame. I mean, I always want to see what the writer had put out there to be translated into the movie as close as possible to how they wrote it. I would like that, normally speaking.
So I have a request. I have a request to Edward Ashton and Bong Joon-ho to contact us, because we want to have an in-depth conversation why this went wrong, in my opinion, and actually everyone's opinion. Well, to be honest with you, we both, if you do a survey both for, on this podcast, we both, it's 100% this project went wrong, based on a quick survey. I definitely want to invite both of them, if they're listening, to contact us, because we definitely want to have an honest conversation regarding this, because there was so many missed potential. Thank you for listening to my rant. And Derek, thank you for listening to my rant. Appreciate it.
Thank you for opening the book with us today. Subscribe so you won't miss our next episode. We would love to hear from you. share a review, or email us at yourbookmarksinfo@gmail.com. Join us again right here where you left off.